Hello, everybody. It looks like we are officially live. So thank you to everybody joining us today for the Black Strathcona Resurgence Project Artist and Curator Talk. My name is Krystal Paraboo, and I have been the project lead and lead curator on this project for a few months now, since the end of last year. And I'm really excited to give space to all of these fantastic artists today to talk about their murals that they have created and to share a bit about their background with you. So I'm quickly just going to start by saying a land acknowledgement. So I just want to acknowledge that the work of BSRP, the work of the Vancouver Mural Festival, the community building, the art that we produce, everything is done on the unsurrendered and stolen territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. We are all very grateful to them that we have had the opportunity to create our art and have this project on their lands. And so we are very grateful to them for that. I'm gonna quickly just go through how this is gonna go today, because as you can see, there's a lot of us on screen, but I promise we will not bombard you and that this will be as smooth as possible. So basically how it will go is I'm going to start by giving a quick background on what the project is for those of you who don't know too much about it. And then we're going to talk to everybody in groups today, which is going to be great. Basically, everyone is going to have a chance to talk about their mural. We will show you a very small picture of their mural on one of the slides as they speak about it to give you context. The artist will let you know where it's located if you want to go and wander and find them. And then each of our artists are going to answer one of the following questions. They're either going to answer what they want audiences to take away from their work, why it's important for Black artists to create public art in Vancouver, and what they gained from the experience of painting their mural. So you'll get to hear a bit about them talk about that as well. So I'm just going to dive right into it before we split off into our groups. So essentially, the vision of the Black Strathcona Resurgence Project is continuing the process of reclaiming Black visibility in Strathcona, an area that we all know was historically populated by Vancouver's Black community. This project essentially functions as a means of reconciling the erasure and systemic racism that has been endured over time by Black people in Vancouver. And we really wanted to center on Black storytelling through the different murals that were produced. The reason that we chose Strathcona as a neighborhood is because Strathcona specifically is directly correlated with the earliest Black migrations. The first Black communities arrived in BC from various parts of California and the prairies, specifically Alberta, as early as 1858. There was about 800 to 1,000 of them, and then over the decades, they just continued to, Black settlement continued to grow and grow. Hogan's Alley is situated right by the railway station, and that is also intentional because a lot of Black men were hired as railway porters. And the neighborhood also was home to the first Black-owned church that also known as the Fountain Chapel, that was spearheaded by Nora Hendricks. And essentially this location, other than all of that, it became a place where a lot of Black-owned businesses were located, like Vi and Robert Moore's Chicken and Steaks. And so what's been really cool is we've actually been working with some descendants of Vi Moore, either in the capacity of an advisory role on our committee or speaking to them about kind of the vision for the project and where that's going. So it's been really great to work with actual descendants of the area itself. We all know that Hogan's Alley and the Black community was dismantled with the viaduct coming in 1972, Georgia Viaduct. And we of course know that it's going to be taken down soon, and the city has agreed to create a Black cultural center, which will be really amazing. So this work is just starting this year. This work is continuing with other bodies involved, and we just really wanted to do our part from a creative side through public murals by reclaiming this space. You'll see every artist that has been curated has a different type of style, and that's also very intentional, a way to humanize Black people, Black artists. So you'll see some are more abstract, some are more figurative, and that's really to just reinforce that Black artists are just like every other artist. So it's gonna be really exciting to get into that. Last thing I just want to mention is that in terms of our goals and community impact, we have been working a lot with Hogan's Alley Society and different Black performers, Black businesses on a lot of our programming and consulting in terms of the visioning of this project and where it should go. We also had a guest curator who we're going to talk to in a bit as well. So the community impact has already been tremendous, and we're just hoping for this to continue to grow. And it's just beautiful to see the community on this screen that has formed from this project, and that will continue to form going forward as well. That's really the most rewarding part of this work. So without further ado, Chipo and I will take over for a little bit, and then we will get into the rest of our artists. So as I mentioned to you guys before, I'm the project manager on this, and I was the lead curator, but I didn't curate all of the artists. Chipo Chipaziwa was also our other curator, and it was really important that we got a very emerging curator in this role as opposed to a really seasoned one. It's really great to give opportunity for up and coming Black curators. So we're gonna have Chipo talk to us a bit about how her experience has gone as an emerging curator for the Black Strathcona Resurgence Project. So hi, Chipo.
Hey.
Feel free to let us know about your experience and what you achieved or your legacy of your curatorial vision or whatever you feel you want to share with people about your experience.
Sure. So basically, you slid into my DMs and you were like, I have this crazy project. And by, as she said, I'm an emerging curator. I'm actually a performance artist, but I'm also emerging in that as well. And you were well versed with my work and you were wondering if I wanted to be a part of it. And I did some research and I was kind of aware about Hogan's Alley, but something, and this also speaks true to my curatorial vision, was that being in Vancouver and being a first generation immigrant, my parents are from Zimbabwe. However, my father being a diplomat, I was born in Malaysia, lived in Switzerland and New York. Coming to Vancouver, something that I realized was how scarce the Black population was. And I did my undergrad degree at the University of British Columbia in visual arts, and something that I critiqued prominently throughout my degree was the lack of Black bodies in that department. So once I graduated and once I started trying to figure out what an artistic practice was going to look like outside of academia, something that I kept on asking was, how different would my practice be if I did have Black mentors, if I was surrounded more by Black bodies? And I felt that being the assistant curator for the Black Strathcona Resurgence Project was a great opportunity for me to answer the questions that I've had. And thus far, my experience curating for this project has been tremendous. I was fortunate enough to work with 4 talented artists who went above and beyond my expectations. Every single one of them are so special in their own way. And something that was so important for me going through this project was to work with people who had different styles, people who were in different levels in their careers, because something that is kind of a source of frustration for me being an emerging artist is, you know, how when you see these opportunities come up, they very much have a certain artist in mind. And for me, I wanted to work with people who, you know, were actually comfortable working in a digital space, people who had no idea and was just like, I want to make art. So that was a lot of fun for me. And what is my legacy for this curatorial vision? Oh man, I feel like for me, I messaged my 4 artists and I said, have you ever just felt so out of place in somewhere and you wanted to conform, but it didn't feel right? And then you ultimately just went against the need to want to be like everyone else and just started to stand up for yourself, advocate for yourself, and say, no, I'm actually going to do my own thing and just be just very unapologetic about it. That's basically my curatorial vision, because for me, I feel like there's no community if anybody can't see themselves within it.
Very,
So yeah.
very true. So with that said, let's get to the first slide, starting with Ania Satoli, and then maybe you can take us through your 4 artists and guide us through their artwork. Um, so let's see if we can change our slide. There we go.
Okay, Ani, are you ready?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry my internet is lagging, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Enya, and I come from Mozambique. It's a country in Southern Africa. I moved here in 2018 for school, and right now I'm taking political science and philosophy. Um, I'll tell you a little bit about the mural and what it represents to me. So as you can see in the wall, there's the brown, the black, and the orange, as well as the yellow, and they all then living in bold are common being in Africa. To that as early adulthood in a new setting. Because for me, immigrating to Vancouver from Mozambique by myself for school was the bravest and toughest decision I ever made, because I had never been away from my family for so long. So all I ever knew so sorry, I keep being sent away.
That's
But
okay.
I
You know
was
what? It might help. It might help if you turn off your
the
video.
video. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was just saying it's like sacrificing everything that was familiar to me back home in Mozambique, and then moving from there to Vancouver for a better future. So here in this painting, I tried to depict myself through the eyes of this girl that you see in the painting, and the way that she wears her African printed earrings and also surrounded by color was just like a way to for her to represent how whenever when whichever surroundings she's in, she leaves her print and then she's present. And it also represents how there's like a constant change happening as I move here, as I find myself in this whole new world, but also how everything stays the same because my identity, being an African and being black, it's like all things that are the same within me. And then one of the things that the question I'll answer is from my work, I just want people to gain a little bit of connection to African culture and African patterns, and I want them to like feel happy whenever they see the yellow in that painting. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really admire your mural because for me, it's just so vibrant, and it being across from a cafe, you just can't help but like be drawn to it. You know, like when I was wandering around the neighborhood not too long ago, I don't know, that yellow just speaks just such volumes, and it's just a stunning black figure. So thank you so much for making that mural. So we're gonna go to my next artist. His name is Sasha. Sasha, are you ready?
Oh, can we actually go to the next slide and then the next slide? Yes, there we go.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Yeah, so let me just get my questions up. I apologize. So yeah, so my name's Sasha, Sasha Balazi. Um, I'm originally from Uganda. We moved with my family 2008 to Montreal. I moved by myself in 2017. Not really sure why, mostly because I just couldn't get jobs speaking English over there. That said, I was definitely going through a bit of an identity crisis already moving from Uganda to Montreal, but it definitely heightened coming to Vancouver, noticing just how small the Black population is, or just even the people of color, the population of people of color. And yeah, so my mural and my process kind of go hand in hand with my, I guess, need to identify myself as an artist, as a Black person. And there's something either, I think either Chipo or Emma Enias talked about, which is, this was Chipo actually, mentioned representing yourself uncomfortably and just unapologetically. I've thought about, I've been in places where, for instance, because I grew up in Africa, I was more of an African, I wasn't Black enough, blah, blah, blah. And then I've also been in places where it's just like, oh, you're Black, like we don't know anything about you, just look at your skin, you know? And I definitely wanted to, I guess, respond to that by going all the way Ugandan and African and trying to represent that. And my mural is meant to be as, and I'm not going off my artist statement directly because that was also like a really edited piece, but it's meant to be sort of a call to action to, instead of stopping at, yeah, sure, Black Lives Matter, but what are we gonna do about it? It's meant to be more of a directive. And it's titled Watch Over This Child. And it's a directive to, I guess, watch over the people who are suffering a little bit more than you. And it's not, we can get into comparing amounts of pain, but in the sense that systemically, we're seeing unheard of amounts of oppression against women, and especially women of color. And this can only be stopped by ourselves, and by putting ourselves on the stand and taking the responsibility of watching over each other, and I guess taking care of someone the way you have been taken care of. I chose these colors mostly, I will admit, out of my inability to paint and yeah, I really just wanted to embrace the contrast between, you know, dark skin, light skin. I wanted to show a bit of warmth. And at the end of the day, because I don't want the message to be 100% indictment, like, hey, you have let us down as Black people, but I want to invite people to come into the mural and then ask the questions like, what are all these butterflies? And who is this child we're seeing here? Where are these women coming from? How do I see myself? I want people, regardless of race, to ask themselves how they see themselves fitting into that mural and the rest of its meaning. My next question, what I want audiences to take away from my work, I want them to be able to just question their own responsibility to the community, or question your responsibility to strangers. It's very easy to be, to conclude, then this is exactly what I'm fighting against. It's the conclusion that some topics are just too difficult, or that's too complex, or we're not going to solve this in this conversation, and that's fine. But when you pass that conversation, you have to do something. You know, you can't have a show and not invite any colored people as a curator. You can't continue the oppression that we were already seeing and still claim to be an ally. And it's really that kind of thing. It's more of a challenge to the wider audience to, I guess, just take up the responsibility and just watch out for each other, watch out for people of color, watch out for women. And with why it's important for Black artists to create public art, I think it's just important to just see yourselves in the streets that you are in. I've thought about applying for VMF many times before, I didn't really know what I'd be getting into. I didn't even think you'd have Black artists on here. I was very impressed. I remember going by the slide that we're using for the main slide. I'm not sure his name, but he's also like on the homepage. I remember going by there, exactly, and seeing him painting, and I was like, wow, this is like, okay, can't believe it. And it definitely makes me feel good about it. You know, I feel like, okay, so there are Black artists doing something here, let alone Black people. And I hope that someone will look at my artist and feel the same way. I can say for sure, as I was making it, I look at the comments I got, and yeah, the people, my audience, they knew who it was for, so to say, without going into that too far. And from painting this mural, just being around that community, I think it just strengthened my resolve in just trying to take responsibility for where we are. People to stay, maybe they needed $2 for a hit or whatever, and they're people too, you know what I mean? Watch over each other, the way we watch over our own children, the way we watch over our family. That's pretty much it.
Thank you so much for sharing that in-depth.
Thank you for having me.
It's a stunning piece. I know that me and you have conversed numerous times about it, and I encourage people to reach out to artists just to let them know what your interpretations are. And I don't know, I think it's a good conversation starter. So we're going to move on to our next artist, Rachel.
I have Amelia here for me for emotional support. Thank you for having me. My name is Rachel Atchis. I am a graphic designer and visual artist based here in Vancouver by way of Alberta, actually. And I'm also a proud second generation Nigerian as well. As for like my artistic influences, I'm really influenced by master painters such as like Rembrandt and Goya, and also modern artists like Harmonia minimalism, and also like extreme like maximalism as well. And I try to like embody that in my artwork, like just throughout my process. Like my background a little bit is that I went to school in Alberta. I studied English for a while, but then decided I needed to switch gears and go towards something a little bit more creative for myself. So I moved here in around, I think, 2018, 2017. And I started taking design courses here. And after a while, I finished my courses, and now I'm working within the field, and I'm just trying to kind of expand how I feel about art and also just other textiles to work with. So sometimes I work digitally, and then sometimes I work with paint and, you know, other multimedia textiles and stuff like that. I don't know, like walking through my piece, how would I describe it? When I was approached by my curator, Chipo, she gave me a prompt, and that was belonging. And when she finally gave me that prompt, I was really, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was in like a dark space per se, but I was very pensive. I was definitely really pensive during that time. And it was like earlier spring as well. So we were still in lockdown, and I was thinking about what I was focusing on, what belongs to me, like who do I want to identify as an artist. And I focused more on, like with this piece of belonging to myself as opposed to belonging to a larger collective. And it's cool because like during this time, like we're in COVID times, like everything is really unpredictable right now. And I think a lot of us are kind of, I don't know, through the media and through like other avenues, like everybody's really kind of clicking up right now. So everyone's just, you know, staying in their groups. And I'm just thinking about like, what kind of person do I want to present to my collective group? Like, what kind of idealized version of myself do I want to yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But when I thought where I wanted to pull inspiration from, I thought of like the loftiness and the romanticism of the Renaissance period. It is actually one of my favorite artistic periods. As I was learning art, like throughout my lifetime, I was trying my best to emulate or try to mimic Renaissance art just throughout my life. And I just thought this would be like a really cool opportunity to attempt it, because it's been very rare that I've ever attempted it before. And I found that like Black subjects within Renaissance art are very few and far between. So I wanted to kind of highlight that a little bit more. And I kind of wanted to have Black subjects be idealized, to be beautiful, to be lush, to be almost godly, like just as we see in like Renaissance pieces of the past. And I just wanted my audience to take from it that like Black subjects are ethereal, are divine, are angelic, are soft. And I kind of want my viewers to kind of pull on truth when they look at my piece, to pull on brightness and to pull on like enlightenment, as people do from looking at like a Da Vinci or anything like that. So this was my attempt.
If we go to the next slide, we can see a bit of details and that Renaissance esque, like I definitely see some Degas inspo in the two dancers, and a lot of Rembrandt and how you built up your brushwork and your lighting source. Very beautiful.
Stunning piece, Rachel. It's very nice and, dare I say, shocking to kind of see Black figures and just kind of representing or being represented in a position where they're not suffering, where they're thriving, and where they're soft and vulnerable. It was really refreshing to see that, and it's a stunning mural. So that was 3 out of 4 of my artists, and we're going to my last one, but last but not least. Okay, where is she?
Hi, I'm Como. I'm a Afro-Hispanic settler, first generation, born and raised in Hogan's Alley and South Burnaby. I lived my entire life here in this community. I have roots that go deep. I have tons of family all throughout East Vancouver, Burnaby, just Vancouver in general. So that's a little bit about me. My style is abstract, it's psychedelic, it's trip culture, it's bright, it's vibrant. A lot of what I do comes from being someone from the neurodivergent community. I'm not atypical. There is a lot going on in my head at all times. And this is how I make sense of my style and who I am in my brain, and a map to it pretty much is what comes out with my art. About my process, I started a little bit, I started the process with the Doodle Grid, also known as the Lazy Grid, which was my first attempt of doing that, and something that I would love to continue to do, just because it did give me a lot of freedom in the way that I came about my border. And the border for me is representative of my life. It's a maze. It's supposed to be a maze of my past, my present, and my future. So every element included the geometric shapes, the flowers, I call them the SpongeBob flowers, the colors, they all came to me in a place in my life where I needed them the most. The SpongeBob flowers coming from last summer during COVID, it was I continually painted them, and my friends were like, is that your attempt of COVID, like doing something that looked like what you could make sense of? And it completely was. It was me making something so scary and confusing to me beautiful. And I So that was the past. And then when you see the middle there, I call them my three figures, my three faces staring back at me. It's almost like a mirror. And they're the goats. They're the three-headed goats. And that is my present, because that is who I believe I am. It is an affirmation to myself and to my community. And future-wise, what I want everyone else to take away from that is that they are also so capable of massive things like this, especially people in my community. I have a lot of cousins who are constantly walking through that alley, family who have been living there since the day they've immigrated here from Colombia. So when people walk through that and see that, I just want to represent joy coming from a Black person who's been in those streets and who has grew up with that environment around me. I left it with so much joy and so much love and so much understanding through complex situations. And it's now left me to be this beautiful, aware person. And that is what I want to reflect back onto my community. So yeah, that's a little bit about the mural itself. In simpler terms, I am a fun, bright South American person, and that is exactly what I wanted to represent through it. And I feel like it was that. It completely came out the way that I feel inside. That is like my brain mapped out on a wall. I feel like answering why I think it's important for Black muralists to exist, especially in Vancouver, is important for me to respond on, because I am from here and I've grown up here my entire life. And the simpler way is obviously we don't see it enough. And it's crazy because Black people are pop culture. You know, the Nike shoes you're wearing, the design on your head, your handbag, that is a Black person's idea. That is a Black person's design. That is all us at all times. And so for you to see it on a wall, it's more of a clear, I just need you to know, you know, like that we are it, and we should be included. We should be public. You should not be afraid. You should see how diverse, how complex we are as Black people. It doesn't matter if you think we, you know, all come from the same places. It's not like that. We're so different as individuals. And I want them to know that this came from a Black person, you know, like this abstract piece is Black, it's fun, it's joyful, it incorporates Vancouver's trip culture, and it came from a Black individual. And so that's why it's important, because for me, when I was painting it, when I applied, I had my family in mind, I had my little cousins in mind, I had them just looking at me as an example of what they were capable of doing. And more than that, I saw myself as a person who I was proud of. I saw the opportunities that I can reach, the goals that I can absolutely reach for as well. And that's why it's important for Black people to be public out here, just because we should be. We absolutely should be, and we're capable. And Vancouver, I feel like, reaps the benefits of our culture sometimes without giving us the credit. And this is our way of taking that back, because Chinatown and Hogan's Alley, East Vancouver, is one of the coolest, best places to be in Vancouver. And it did belong to us. And that's why, for me, it's important that this is seen and that we're visible. So shout out to Krystal and Chipo for doing this. It's so important, especially for a young artist who's emerging into the art scene here in Vancouver. It is primarily white. It's difficult. It's a lot of people wanting you to conform, a lot of people wanting you to just be palatable. And I'm not, you know, I am who I am, and I don't care if I make you uncomfortable. So it's good. I'm happy, and I'm so proud of this whole project, and to have been proud of it, just because it's what should have existed already. You know, that is my neighborhood. It's my people's neighborhood. So Yeah, that's what it
Yes, you're so cool. I can't even handle it.
is. Thank you. I'm really nervous. I don't know, I'm very nervous, but thank you.
So much for sharing those words. I do feel like art is a great way to kind of express yourself and just be very bold and be like, ah, this is it. Take
No,
it.
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm so happy with your final product, and I hope you are happy and also proud of yourself as well. I hope all of the artists are proud of themselves. But I'm gonna pass the mic to Krystal.
Any final words, Chipo? Or those were your final words?
What are my final words? I'm in a daze. I just can't believe that I got to work with these four beautiful, talented individuals. And you know, for some of them, this was their first mural and they really went above and beyond. And I'm so excited and so stoked to see what they're going to do after this. And I hope to just remain in contact with them. And I just wish them nothing but the best.
Totally. This really what it's all about for us curators at the end of the day is being able to step back and see like this community form, to see artists continue to thrive and go out because, and I mean, we're all learning still in terms of curation. But I think for me, based on my experiences, I have enjoyed working most with emerging artists specifically, and before the ego gets to them, and and really helping them find their way. And just hearing Rachel and Como and Sasha and Ania, just hearing you guys speak just really warms my heart and makes me feel really great. So thank you guys so much. Chipo, you did amazing as a curator this year. So we're gonna go into our next set of artists that I curated this year. So we're gonna start with the incredible, the impeccable, the infamous Odera Igbokwe. It's Igbokwe or Igbokwe?
It depends. If you're
Okay.
going for like the very authentic Nigerian parent, it's Odera Ibokwe. But I always say Odera Ibokwe, and that's my name. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that wonderful, dramatic introduction. I'm living for it.
I mean, you deserved it.
Thank you. Anyway, my name is Odera, and I am an illustrator and painter. My pronouns are they, them, and he, him. And I'd say a lot of my work is about celebrating the magic of the African diaspora and of the cutie BIPOC community, being queer, trans, Black, Indigenous people of color. And I'd say overall, my work explores the magic of the Black queer imagination and kind of responds to the fractures that can occur via diaspora. And so with that in mind, this mural was another opportunity to create another access point to help respond to those fractures. And so this mural is called Kindred Sunsets. And it's a reminder to center inner peace and healing despite the ruptures caused by migration and displacement, which we are here, or the mural is there in Hogan's Alley, so it's very timely. And in the mural, it is a chosen family of past and future selves. They sit on a new horizon, and all of them act as an elemental conduit to center unity, rest, and the possibility of what happens when you center rest. And I also think the piece, often when I think of like ancestral work or reclaiming ancestral work, we often think of that something in the past, but I always think it's really important to kind of weave the past and the future and all those possibilities back and forth. So like this big group you see, it's kind of like a group of chosen family of future and past selves doing a call and response. So you're not only communing with your ancestors or your future descendants, but they're communing with you. And I'd say what I'd want the audience to take away from this work is just to remind yourself to cherish those precious or those joyful moments or the moments where you need or desire rest. And if you're someone who thinks you've been resting long enough, then you've got work to do. So it really depends on who you are and how you're interacting with it.
Amazing. Also, it's hard to see from either pictures, but you did an amazing rainbow gradient from the very right corner leading up to the very top left corner. And that's not only is like a good gradient really hard to do, but it's hard to do it on this textured wall. And so I kind of just want to commend you for that. And I don't know if you maybe want to speak up really quickly in your experience working with the texture of the wall. You, Paige, Rachel, and Zach all kind of had the hardest texture to work with.
Yeah, I'd say overall, as an illustrator and painter, my typical scale is anywhere from like a small piece or a digital piece to like 20 by 30 inches. So this is my first large scale mural. So immediately I knew I wanted it to be more about the feeling you get in vibrancy of color, as opposed to like lots and lots of details. And I'd say that blending is something I've just been doing for a long time. And parts of it were difficult on a textured wall, but parts of it were actually easier depending on the brush strokes you used. So it was really about learning how to hold the brush, and instead of like going back and forth and fanning things, almost acting as though the brush is a chisel, or I'm doing pixel art and doing individual pixels as opposed to like a nice smooth surface. So it wasn't the worst thing ever, but it was, I quickly realized I was not going to be as detailed as I usually am.
Right, but it's still you still produced a very beautiful work. I also kind of want to talk about, if we go back to the last slide, the drone figures. I kind of want you to tell everybody a bit of the journey that we took getting those drones, because our initial, I remember when I first approached you, we talked a lot about wanting to do a piece that was solely rooted in Afrofuturism. And so I was very much like, oh, give me like robots, give me like all these futurist stuff. But then I love that you came back and you were like, okay, like I'll do my own interpretation of like futurism, but I kind of also want to bring in this healing element and this ancestral element that's very much indicative of your style and your vision. But I just love that the droids themselves are very much inspired from West African sculpture, West African type, like they're droids with afros. Like how cool is that? Like I just don't, yeah. So if you, I don't know if you maybe just wanted to quickly speak to that before we move on.
Yeah, I'd say the journey of this mural, as some of us know, I had a different mural that was planned, and that one had a giant parade at the bottom with like all these different figures that kind of were a symbol for futurism, but we're also playing with that ancestral element and like different art history references. But upon doing a draft for this new wall, I saw how textured it was and like where like certain interruptions were. And I knew I had to like limit it from a parade to just like something a bit more simple and more shape-based. So it was really kind of thinking of it from a design perspective and thinking, okay, what shape is simple enough but still evokes some of those like Nigerian or West African or Mande or just all those different cultures, what would evoke that shape? So that's where we get like the long neck and some of those like chiseled in details. And then I decided, instead of getting too detailed with like masquerades or a face, it'd be more interesting to kind of combine that with like 70s Afro and have both of the duo almost fading into a sunset. So it's almost like reflecting on that metaphor of like life cycles and the sun constantly rising and setting. And so towards the right, we have that group of five where they're like in the sun, in that horizon, and then towards the left, it's a little bit more reflective of the past.
Amazing, so beautiful. Thank you so much, Odera, for gracing our eyes, our public sphere, our all the things with your genius. We're gonna move on now to Yemel Lopez Alvitar, my favorite Cuban friend.
Yeah, getting better. Wow.
I'm getting better, right?
yeah, that's good.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Hello, everybody. My name is Jaimel Lopez, and I am a Cuban graphic artist living in Vancouver for 2.5 years now. So yeah, basically, the last 2 years I have been working on memories. So my work for the Vancouver Mural Festival was basically portrayed 5 persons from the Hogan Islands. So you can see there, it's a core to not forget those who were here before. Basically, I don't know if you can see there from here because the picture is too small, but
You can go to the next slide.
oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically because of my background as a graphic designer, I have a strong illustration and graphic approach to the image. So I try to work with just 3 colors and play with the background. So sometimes you see the background, sometimes you see the image. And basically what I'm doing, what I try to tell is sometimes that part of the history that is missing. So that's why sometimes the background take over the image, sometimes not. What I want audience take from my work is basically the doubt about what is the Hogan Island history. I want they take from home and the need to make some research in the story of this area and try to find more about the people who were living there, the story of Black community in Vancouver, because basically I believe that thanks to story, we are who we are. So you have to know where we come from in order to know where we're going. So that's basically that.
Amazing. I want to talk about a bit how you, before you answer your question, I want you to talk a bit about how you implemented the specific geometry that you did, like what the thought process is behind approaching that, because you did it in a way that's really dynamic and kind of gives the planters themselves more depth than they already have. And so I kind of just want to tug your brain a bit more on that process.
Yeah, big question. Was quite challenged because when I made a sketch, I mean, you have a paper, right? But when I get there, of course 3D planters, so it was a quite challenge to adapt my first idea to this shape. But I did it. I mean, I used a lot of tape, had to at the end make some change in the design in order to make the flow organic, but I think it's worth. I try to do it very dynamic in every corner you can see, because that plants are located in the bus stop, but from behind you still can see the dynamic and the movement in the composition. So yeah, it's basically what I try to do. Was challenging, but at the end I think it's where people like it. So.
Amazing. And how did you choose which Hogan's Alley figures to depict?
Yeah, I mean, when I made some research, the pictures were so bad. So I basically, it was so bad. So basically I made like collage. I picked some make shapes on the faces on some persons and put some other elements from other person. I make some a collage, because as I said before, the picture was so bad. But what I tried was to basically came up with a strong idea of the people who were there before. So
yeah, it's true. There's a lot of the archival pictures from Hogan's Alley are not too in good condition, so it's kind of really hard to work with them. Did you want to answer one of your questions before we move on?
The question, basically the question answer was, what do you want audience take away from your work? As I said before, I want to plant a seed in audience mind, so hopefully they made some research and try to find more about the story of this place, of the people who were living there, the story of Black community in Vancouver. So see that.
Yeah, that's amazing. When we were giving the BSRP walking tour the other day with Ali with Vancouver Detours, a lot of people on the tours were asking, well, which figure are they? Who are they? And I specifically said, well, what Yemail wants you guys to do, like it's actually intentional a bit that you don't know who they are, so that you can go home and do your research and try to figure out things for yourself. Leaving some things ambiguous is actually a form and tool for continuing education and navigating your participation in community. So Thank you so
It's
much,
about that.
Emel. Very
It's okay.
beautiful.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Krystal.
We're now going to move on to Jocelyn Reed, if he's here still. Yes, he is. Okay, next slide. There we go.
Mm.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. First of all, a huge shout out to the guys who faces that I know and to the new faces. Super excited to be here. My name is Jocelyn Reed, and I'm a Jamaican-born visual artist. And I pretty much I've been doing art for all my life. Started focusing on visual communication in the late 90s, where I moved into advertising and started as a graphic designer and art director, and pretty much practice illustration while doing design within advertising. And yeah, so I moved to Canada in 2006, where I continued doing advertising and art, always drawing, always sort of connected with the foundation, which is illustration. And the style of illustration I do is very contemporary in its aesthetic. And it's influenced heavily by my experience in advertising, being a designer and applying the design principles to my illustrations. You know, the clean lines, the simplicity of it, of how the illustrations look, is definitely melting from my experience as a designer. So we are some of our experiences. So definitely the work I do is a makeup and of my experiences and things that I've done in the past. So the mural itself, the name of the mural is called The Beautiful Meme, and it's pretty much a celebration of my culture, my Jamaican culture, specifically the John Kuna sort of celebration, which is an annual event in Jamaica. And it's a celebration that sort of encompasses music and dance and lots of costumes. And the work, the illustration is pretty much depicting one specific character within the festival itself. The character name is Pichipachi, and Pichipachi's sort of entire image is, I would say, made up of like stripped of cloth with lots of colors, and the colors are sort of like layering in its aesthetic, and that influenced me more than I would I remember growing up over the years. My love for color and just kind of that burst of color, definitely I pulled from my experience with the celebratory John Kuna annual culture in Jamaica. The central figure within the piece is actually connected back to the Jamaican Maroons. One of their leader is Nani, and Nani is a powerful figure within our Jamaican culture. She's a national hero for good reason, because she led the Maroons to fight against the British oppression at the time. And she was very revered because of her intelligence and how she would strike fear into her enemies by connecting with her ancestors in what we in Jamaica call obia, which is like just ancestral worship. And that, for someone for people who are superstitious, that strike fear in their hearts. And she knew that, but that was just her intelligence. So she's the central figure within the idea itself. And of course, the Maroons is definitely connected with the celebration of John Kuna, especially Pichipachi, because of the garment. There's a connection with how the Maroons dress and Pichipachi itself. So everything is kind of wrapped up into the whole story of not just the celebratory side of Jamaica, but also going beyond that, beyond the surface, and connecting with our African roots and our African heritage and our ancestors. The last question, how do I want my audience to connect with my piece? Pretty much, I want my audience to enjoy the work that I do, right? I usually invite the audience to add their own interpretation to the visuals I produce. And once it's out there, it's no longer mine. It's for whoever is enjoying the space that is living in. And I'm usually I find feedback that's not influenced by my story to be really interesting. Like, you know, what the piece means to you just by looking at it. I find that feedback to be really interesting. Even at times, they're more interesting than the stories that I put to it. Like, these are the things that I deal with in like daily when I do work. I do it for others, right? And as I said before, my design side is melting into my art side, and everything is sort of like layered and fused onto each other. So I'm really comfortable with other interpretations to the work that I do.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Let's now move on to Paige. Amazing. Okay, Paige, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paige. I'm a Chinese Canadian illustrator, currently a full-time illustrator. And I just actually kind of started illustrating this year and a bit of last year out of complete boredom. And it sort of has brought out this amazing opportunity to meet so many people and work on some really cool projects. And I'm so grateful to be asked to be part of this project by my curator, Krystal. And yeah, so a lot of my work is kind of centered around the experiences of being a first-gen Chinese Canadian, not knowing really kind of where I fit in, if I'm like Chinese enough or Canadian enough. I've always kind of like not fit neatly into either box. And I think that's really informed some of my work. And I guess I'll talk a bit about my mural. So when Chris and I were talking and brainstorming, we really wanted to celebrate the existing community that's in Vancouver Chinatown. And sort of my interpretation of that was sort of to pay respect to the Chinatown community and sort of the long history of Chinatown. And I think Vancouver Chinatown, there's been so much that's happened, and I think there's so much resiliency within the community, and that's kind of immediately what I thought about when we were brainstorming. Mm-hmm. And as we look at the mural, there's 4 faces that I've decided to put on there, as these aren't people that I actually know, but they're sort of representations of people from the Chinatown community. There's young people, there's old people, there's dark skin, there's light skin, and I just felt like it was a way to sort of represent that both the young and old generations, there's so much strength and perseverance, and seeing the younger generations stand up for Chinatown in this day has been a really amazing thing that I've noticed. And then around the faces, there's oranges. I guess more on a personal note, my grandma always brought oranges to the house when she visited. And so fruit is like a love language for a lot of us. And I think that's why I decided to put the oranges, but they also represent perseverance and good wealth. And there's also a lot of plum flowers or plum blossoms around, which represents perseverance as well. And there's also lanterns, which are symbols of hope. I think a lot of times when we think of Chinatown, I've like grown up in Vancouver, and I've seen Chinatown sort of has its ups and downs. And I think now a lot of people have been noticing that it's not as vibrant as it once was. And I think this mural was a way for me to kind of say there's a lot of hope for Chinatown and the community. And I think the reason why this mural is a part of the Black Strathcona Resurgence Project is I think my hope is that when people see all of our murals together, they can understand that there's community at work, and there's togetherness, and there's proactive allyship that is happening, and we can't do it without each other. And it sounds a little cheesy, but yeah, I just wanted people to see the mural and feel hopeful that we need solidarity and we need to be proactive with each other. And yeah, it's amazing to see this whole project come together with everyone involved.
Thanks so much, Paige. Yeah, I just to add on, I forgot to mention in the beginning that a huge core element of BSRP is making sure that we are in our attempt to render the Black community visible. We do not want to make any other community that exists in Strathcona or Vancouver feel rendered invisible. And so an important part of this project was acknowledging that Hogan's Alley and Chinatown do physically intersect. Therefore, the communities historically have intersected as well. And then also acknowledging that we are on stolen MST lands at the end of the day as well, which is why we had Zach George participate, who we'll go into in a bit. So yeah, like you said, Paige, we talked a lot about, I remember I kind of brought up wanting seniors specifically to be represented, just because there is a bit of a historical legacy to this project and a historical legacy to this neighborhood. And then you came back with something beyond what I even envisioned. And I think your illustrator background and like flat use of color and lines really on that textured wall worked really well. Like, I know it was really hard for you to work on at first, but I think your style went really well with the texture of this wall. And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, actually, maybe I'll say this after we see Zach George's, because yeah, it makes more sense. But yeah, so thank you so much, Paige. And you were such a pleasure to work with. You were so adorable, and just your family came out and showed up for you. And it was so inspiring to kind of see that community build from there, and see all of you guys work together. So thank you so much. So Zach George isn't with us today, but if we go to the next slide, we'll kind of just give you guys a bit of a sneak peek. We haven't been able to get a picture of it yet without a lift in front of it, because this was one of the last murals that was completed. And so Zach George is a Tsleil-Waututh artist that I curated this year. He's also a guest curator for VMF this year, and he is painting another mural on Hastings, I think, Planters. So he's very busy, which is probably why he couldn't make it today. But I just want to talk a bit about the process of him and I conceptualizing his piece. So he was so stoked to come on board when he first heard about it, and he really wanted to embody the solidarity element and the togetherness. So initially our color palette was purple and turquoise and some yellows, and it was this exact same design. And so the salmon that you see is also supposed to be a mountain of togetherness, is what he called it, but initially it was purple. And then as time progressed and we started to uncover, unfortunately, all of the bodies of former residential school Indigenous children, we talked a lot about wanting to incorporate an element of that in there. So we decided to change the palette to orange, to obviously represent all of the children, and then something that would complement the orange, which was the black and the blue. And because Zach was so busy, he's actually been busy volunteering with communities in Lytton, so he wasn't able to paint it. He did design it, so we did have some amazing VMF staff, Steph and Phoebe, who really stepped up to help get it finished on time. So big thank yous to them for painting. And yeah, now I can say that for these textured walls that you guys have seen from Odera, Zach, Paige and Rachel. They're actually all side by side, and they're part of a building called Solheim Place that's ran by BC Housing and operated by Success. So it's definitely a building that has a lot of more senior residents and low-income families. And so really, not only have these murals just brightened up that area, but unintentionally, they all kind of really complement each other well. So Zach's orange goes really well with the orange accents that Paige has in her mural, and the blending that Rachel had in her mural, and the colors like the pinks and the purple go very well with Odera's blending and gradients as well. And so all of that was unintentional, but when you kind of go down that alley, you can see that they all serendipitously became like this unified collection of 4 murals. So it's truly fantastic. We're going to end with the pièce de la résistance, as they say, which is the Solidarity Storytelling mural. So this mural was done by 3 artists who will all have a chance to speak in a minute. Emma Z, John Sebastian, and Chase Gray. So just to give you guys a bit of background, this mural is on the BC Hydro Murren Substation building located at 701 Main Street. We were able to secure 3 different walls to paint in 1 year that BC Hydro was able to fund for us, which was great. This wall almost didn't make it though this year. It almost didn't get funded. It almost wasn't even pursued seriously as an option. But I saw the 3 panels of what it looked like, and I had the vision, and I was like, oh, no, we're getting this wall. And I probably drove Adrian, my colleague, crazy. But I was like, we are doing everything we're gonna do until we get this wall. And we got the wall, and we got it funded, and we got this really beautiful mural on it right now. So literally this building is located, like I mentioned before, right at the intersection of Chinatown and Hogan's Alley. And it's very high. It's visible from the Georgia Viaducts, but I'm also told now it's also visible from Canby Bridge. So that's also really amazing. But really we wanted to, I had a vision of 3 different portraits representing the 3 different communities that we really wanted to emphasize are in solidarity for this project. And however the artists wanted to interpret or represent them, they had the autonomy to do on their own. So Chase, who will get into his piece in a minute, for instance, as someone who identifies as both Musqueam and Shimishim, he has both Northwest Coast indigenous art style, but also traditional Coast Salish design that you can see in the frame at the top and at the sides. And it's intentionally kind of framed like a house because Musqueam are one of the host nations, so they are hosting us. So maybe we'll start from the panels left. Oh, look, Theo's here, so cute. We'll start with Emma first because it's the first panel. So when I reached out to Emma, just as a background, I really wanted, I was huge fan of her painting, her oil paintings. She was so confused as to how I found her, and I was like, I just know you, okay? Just deal with it. You're amazing. And so we went back and forth on a design, and you can't really see it in this picture, but the face of the individual that she painted, there's so much different color in there. But I'm gonna let her talk about the piece that she decided to represent Chinese and Asian communities within that area. So go ahead, Emma.
Thanks, Krystal. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma. I'm from China. I graduated from Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. Currently, I'm an art instructor in Richmond. I engage in the work of graphic design since 2010. In 2013, my husband and I set up an art and design studio in Richmond. We provide tutorial and guide students interested in arts and design to be well prepared for university admission. So over many years as an arts educator, I have helped teenagers express their thoughts through individual and collaborative art projects. Now I'm moving to my mural part. So the man on my mural was one of the Tibet's most renowned meditation master of recent times. His name is Akyu Rinpoche. The reason I chose this figure because he could be the most representative of Tibetan Buddhism. The Rinpoche means precious one and may refer to the person or a place or something, but it's best described as a reborn spiritual master. Akyu Rinpoche revitalized the study and the practice of Buddhism in Eastern Tibet, beginning in the 1980s. Eventually drawing tens of thousands of students from across Tibet and China to his Buddhist encampment of Yaqing Monastery. It was inspired by a mantra, a Tibetan mantra from the Tibetan tradition, which translates to help us clarify or purify our body, speech, and mind. So the mantra pronounced as Om Wa Hum. By reciting this mantra, you will have a peaceful mind, and you are also purifying the environment, and as well as yourself and all other beings within it. What I want audience to take away from my work is, as you know, many Tibetan Buddhism temples are now being destroyed in China. The figures in this painting, his temple, Yaqing Monastery, has been partly destroyed too. And many of Tibet's living Buddhas have been banned from preaching. Maybe you've only heard of Dalai Lama or the 70s Karmapa, but Akyu Rinpoche is also the most representative of Tibetan Buddhism. He represents peace, spirituality, and happiness. This is also part of Tibetan culture. Yeah. So I hope that through my work, Tibetan Buddhism can receive increased public attention. Lastly, I think it's important for me to have a presence as a Chinese artist in a Black Visibility Project. It's from my own perspective, we are all minority group in some way. These three murals convey the same meaning that everyone, regardless of their ethnicity or creed, has the equal rights in Canada. So this unique experience could create people's empathy and could make viewers to feel resonant and to have more new understanding of art. Yeah, so I'm very grateful to have this opportunity, although I'm not an actual painter this time, but I'm always interested in the opportunity that could bring me another breakthrough. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. And yeah, I know that you and I touched base at a time where you were really busy. And so I'm grateful that you were still able to make it work and that it had such a great impact and you were such a pleasure to work with. And hopefully there could be many more opportunities for you to tackle on the mural painting.
Yeah, sure.
Let's move on to the middle panel. Chase Gray, the Great. Oh my goodness. Hello.
Hi. I am Chase. I am a Musqueam and Tsimshian artist from the Lower Mainland. I grew up in Abbotsford and Chilliwack, and I was raised in a Tsimshian dance group called the Githayetsk. And through that dance group, I learned a lot of our Northern art style from my uncle, Mike D'Angeli. And yeah, that's about me as an artist. And then this mural, the main body of it is in a Tsimshian style. And the top figure is my representation of a two-spirit ancestor that's sitting at the top and watching over, you know, it's a very high up structure. So watching over all of the people that are, you know, going by it and stuff. And then it also represents the intersection of race and gender because it's two-spirit and women and indigenous girls that are going missing and being killed and surprising rate and stuff. So underneath that, I also drew a hayetsk, which is a copper shield, to represent, you know, protection and solidarity. And within the copper shield is a bear, because when we think of a bear, often we think of, you know, protectors and powerful beings and stuff like that. And generally red is the feminine color and black is the masculine color. So that's why the figure itself has red and black within it. And then the sun and the moon are the perfect representation of things that are complete opposites, but still exist harmoniously within each other. And they signify like an even flow of time, and yeah.
Yay. Can you maybe tell us a bit about the Koh-Salish design frames?
Yeah, and then the outside is salmon, because it is a resource that is unfortunately dwindling quickly. And well, no, my baby. Sorry. Yeah, no, I did the salmon in the a more Coast Salish style, which includes like more trigons and circles and U shapes versus ovoids. There's not really ovoids in Salish art. So yeah, I chose salmon because it is a very it's a precious resource that is dwindling, and our killer whales, which rely on them, are going extinct because they don't have enough of the Chinook.
Yeah. I also really like a huge part of the Tsimshian part of the design is kind of alludes a lot to queer identities as a whole as well, and I think that that's really important to talk about, because when you kind of zoom out on all three murals collectively, we have representation of elders, youth, queer, two-spirit, and kind of everything in between, which is also an important part of the element in addition to the communities being represented. So if you maybe want to talk a bit about that as well.
Yeah, when I hope that when people look at this mural and stuff, they are inspired to maybe, you know, do some research on Northwest Coast culture and art. And I know a lot of people sometimes get them confused with each other, and, you know, learn to tell the difference between something that is maybe a Tsimshian style and a Coast Salish style, and how they don't really mix. They're not the same thing. A lot of people think they're the same thing. But yeah, I also hope that this, like when two spirit people walk by, they see this mural and they see themselves represented at like it's like at a really high elevation. So like they get to see themselves way up there represented in a big, big, big way that isn't always accessible to people.
Totally. Thank you, Chase. It's so incredible. You guys really need to see the details up close. The symmetry is so perfect on every bit that he touched. So thank you so much, Chase. It was such an honor to work with you.
Thank you so much for contacting me and figuring this out.
Okay, and last but not least, we have our last panel of the mural with our last panelist, John Sebastian. Hello.
Hello. Hey, guys. So my name's John Sebastian. I was born in Canada to Jamaican and Canadian parents and spent a lot of my youth split between Jamaica and Canada. And it was this time that really made me hyper aware of my identity and how I'm viewed in society, and kind of influenced my artistic practice. So my artistic practice is dealing with minority perspective and minority identity, and creating a body of work that creates a positive image of minorities. Because growing up, I felt a lot of pressure to conform to a certain stereotype of what Black is, and this is a stereotype that's enforced by a white culture, and it's just so messed up. And what I saw was that there was a real lack of positive minority identity in media or in art and culture, and that it was just this really narrow image. And as a geeky kid growing up, I didn't fit in that narrowly prescribed image. So with my work, I try like using portraiture, and I think that's another point that's important, is that I use portraiture because it has a history that's tied to it or associated to it with capturing noble people or people of higher class. So I thought it was a great medium to use to elevate minorities. So the goal of my work is really to create a body of work where there's a positive and very diverse image of minorities presented to counteract, mass media or the negative connotations that we have to deal with. And so the point of my mural was to, one, celebrate women, and two, celebrate ethnic women more specifically. So I wanted to create an image of a woman that was ambiguous in her ethnicity. She could be African, or she could be from the Caribbean or East Asia or East Indian. It didn't matter. All that mattered was that she was brown, and that she didn't prescribe to the Western canon of beauty. She didn't have thin face and a thin nose and blue eyes. She has dark eyes and very pouty lips and a wide nose and curly hair, and natural curly hair. And it's untamed, it's wild, it's not permed and matted down. And they created an image that other women could see beauty of themselves in, and that other people could see, recognize that this is a beautiful woman, and this is a beautiful woman that doesn't prescribe to the tradition or the Western canon that we're constantly bombarded with. And I thought this was important because, growing up, it had such a big influence on me and on my identity and who I thought I was. And if you create this body of work that and broaden this definition, then you will allow other people to see that, okay, being Black doesn't just mean one thing; it means a whole lot of things, and I can belong somewhere in there in this wide spectrum instead of this narrow definition. And then this comes back to why I think it's important that you see minority art or different representations of minority in media, is to broaden that definition. because it's so narrow. And, you know, like I was called Jafaican growing up because I'm Jamaican, but I don't smoke weed, I don't have dreadlocks, and, you know, I wasn't a Rasta. And that was so detrimental to my identity growing up because it questioned my blackness and, you know, gave me imposter syndrome. So really the goal of my work is to reach out to people like me and, you know, let them know there's more people like you out there, and hopefully other people will see themselves in my work, and it'll broaden their perception of what it means to be them.
Amazing. Thank you so much, John. I know that specifically also when I reached out to you, I was very kind of adamant on the image, really evoking kind of like a love letter to like all women of color, yes, but Black women specifically, because of the activist movements that they are always at the forefront of. And I remember sharing that with you, and you said yes, that still is something that very is resonating as well. I know that when at the height of the BLM movement, so many Black women and Black femmes actually physically put their bodies on the line on the viaduct in Hogan's Alley and blocking it. And, you know, some of them got arrested, some of them, it was just a huge kind of really emotional ordeal. And that of course never gets either press at all or positive press, but Black women uphold these movements. And so I also really love that the image, she's not smiling specifically, because it's also kind of that it humanizes that woman more, because it's okay for us to not smile, instead of always, you know, being told if you're not smiling, there's something wrong with you, you're rude, you're sassy, you're this, you're that. But no, you can just be a human and not smile and still be okay, just like anyone else who does it as well. So your piece has so many different layers to it, and I think your work is phenomenal, as you know, because I didn't let you say no to this. So thank you for joining.
Oh, thank you for including me. Like, I'm really, really happy to be part of this project. This is really awesome. And it's great to see that there's finally a push for, you know, giving a venue to minority artists, because there's just so few and far in between. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point of this project. So we did so good for time. I'm so proud of us. We're literally half an hour earlier. Yay. One thing I just want to quickly say before we wrap up, just to let everyone else know who's watching or will be watching this, the rest of the programming for the week. So this Thursday, we have an Unlearning Anti-Blackness workshop that's going to be hosted by Backhow Consulting, by their facilitator Udo Cam, who is an angel. So please send it to anybody who's non-Black in your life. Just send them the link. And there's like a workbook that comes with it. So just send it to them. And we every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. there's actually walking tours of all the murals that all the artists just spoke about today. And Strathcona, the Black history of Strathcona neighborhood at the same time as well. So please go to vanmerylfest.ca/BSRP to see all of those things that you can sign up for. And then we're hoping that you will also be with us during the closing ceremony on the 21st. We have a couple really great performers, including Mad Rhythm and Afro Van Connect. And then on the 22nd, the very last day of the festival, which is a Sunday, for all my outdoor queens, there's going to be a bike tour happening of all the Black murals to date in Vancouver. So you'll be in every neighborhood from South Granville to the West End, to all of the Strathcona ones that were produced this year as well. It's being led by Color the Trails Vancouver and the Vancouver Biennale's Walkin' Alley /Bikin' Alley. So that will be happening, I think, every every hour, on the hour, groups of up to 25 will ride on an amazing route that has been designed of all of the murals. And then of course, because, I mean, I guess we could open up to Q&A if anybody had questions. I don't really see any in there, but if you guys do have any questions that you don't want to post today, but want to post to artists in the future, please just follow these artists, email these artists. I'm sure I speak for everyone here when I say that you guys would be willing to talk to people and take on new work from other people. So please just reach out to these artists if you don't have any questions here right now. And other than that, thank you all for joining. And please just remember that as much as these murals are really beautiful and gracing our city, again, it is more than that. It is about community. It is about reconciling the systemic erasure that Black people have endured. And I know that sounds like such an abstract sentence, but think about what it seems like for something to be erased, and think of what it seems like for a human being to be erased. And those aren't really great feelings to work with. And even though all of us aren't necessarily from Vancouver or have roots in Hogan's Alley, as Black people, that concept of erasure is not new to us, no matter where we are. So thank you to all of you amazing artists for your brilliance and for your willingness to participate. And I look forward to what the future will bring. And I wish all of you the best of luck. I'm saying this like I'm not going to see you again, but
thank you so much, Krystal, for having this vision, because without you, this project would not be in existence. We would not be here on Zoom tonight. So if we could just give Krystal a round of applause, because we recognize you and we see you and we love you and we thank you so much for the work you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't make me cry on camera though. My makeup looks too nice. Yeah, you guys were a pleasure. It was easy. Lots of labor involved, but it's so worth it to see this and to see you guys flourish. That's why I do what I do. So thank you guys so much. Okay, I guess we'll stop the webinar now. Tech person, thanks everybody.
Thank you, Krystal. We love you so
Thank
much.
you, Krystal.
Love and appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.